Today we're going to be looking at session 3.3, Division Strategies. Our learning target today is I will describe and compare strategies used to solve division problems. Just like you did in 4th grade when you were learning multiplication and used counting around the room, we're going to use counting around the room for division. Let's look at this first word problem. Students in a class are going to count by 20s. Each person says only one number. The first person says 20, the second person says 40, and so on. The last person says 640. How many students counted? Well, we have to think about what our division problem is going to be. And our division problem for this word problem is going to be 640 divided by 20. But let's look at some of the numbers that are in the word problem and figure out what they represent. So 640, what does that number represent? The 640 represents the number that the class counted up to. But what about the 20? The 20 represents what each person counted by. Now think about the answer that you're going to get. What is that going to represent? The answer is going to represent the number of students who counted. One way to solve a division problem is to turn it into a multiplication problem. So if we had 640 divided by 20, if we turned it into a multiplication problem, we're going to be thinking of 20 times what number is going to get me up to 640. So one way that I like to start is I like to think about tens. It's easy for me to multiply by 10, so I think, could I do a group of 10? Would 20 times 10 work? If I did 20 times 10, I'm going to get 200. Now I have to be able to figure out how much I still have to go because I know that I have to get up to 640. So one way that you can do that is to start subtracting. So if you start with 640 and you subtract the 200, then you're going to have 440 left. So I know I still have to get up to 440. Well, then I can think, would another group of 10 work? And it would. So then I can go ahead and subtract. So now I only have 240 that I have to get up to. So would another group of 10 work? And then I go ahead and subtract. So now I have 40 more that I have to get. So I know I can't do another group of 10 because that's going to be too much. So if I think about 20 times what number is going to get me to 40? And I know that 20 times 2 equals 40. So then I subtracted. Now I'm down to 0, so I know that I've used everything up. But how do I figure out what the answer is? Well, I have to add up the numbers that I used when I multiplied by 20. So 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 2. And when I do that, I'm going to get 640 divided by 20 equals 32. Now let's look at a problem from your math worksheet. Let's look at number 3. It says, Mr. Smith's class is counting by 75s and students can count more than once. The first person says 75 and the last person says 4,050. How many 75s do the students count? This is very similar to the one that we just did. What I want you to do is pause this and solve it before you move on. So you should have worked it out by now. Did you get 54 as your answer? Good. We're going to look at how some other students solved it. It might not be the way that you solved it, and that's perfectly fine. Just remember that you always want to use the strategy that works best for you. So Samantha, she used a problem that she already knew to help her come up with a larger problem. So she knew that 300 divided by 75 equaled 4. So then by knowing that, she knew that 3,000 divided by 75 had to equal 40. So now all she had to figure out was 1,050 divided by 75. So she broke that part up. She did 750 divided by 75 equal 10. Then she only had 300 more, and she knew that that was already 4. So 4,050 divided by 75 equals 54. She got the 54 from adding up the answers that she got from each of her division problems. Now Matt did it a little bit differently. For him, multiplying by tens was easy, and so he did 10 times 75 equals 750. And he realized that 750 is pretty far away from the 4,050 that he needed to get to, so he started doubling. And when you double one factor, your answer is going to double. So when he went from 10 times 75 to 20 times 75, his answer doubled from 750 to 1,500. Well, that's still kind of far away, so he doubled again. And then he had 3,000. When he got to 3,000, he knew that he couldn't double again because that would give him too much. But he knew that he could do another group of 10. So he tried 50 times 75, and that got him to 3,750. And then he had to figure out how much he could do again. So he added 4 more groups and got to 54. So 54 times 75 equals 4,050. When you're trying to solve division problems, there are a couple of things to try to keep in mind. First, you want to find a step that solves a large part of the problem. So just like Samantha did when she used 40 times 75 equals 3,000, it made it a lot easier for her to have a jumping off spot to solve the rest of the problem. You also want to choose a first step that leads to efficiently solving the rest of the problem. So Matt, when he realized that 10 times 75 was far away from 4,050, then he started doubling, and that is an efficient way. But if that is still hard for you to figure out a way to start, you can always use the way that we solved the first problem and do it in smaller chunks until you become more comfortable. So today we looked at some division strategies that you can use to solve problems. Tomorrow we'll build on that. We'll use those strategies when we do division starter problems.